Okay, we are a minute after the hour. I'm going to go ahead and get started for today. So, good afternoon or good morning, wherever you find yourself in the world today. Welcome to MBA Education's and Denim Social's Leveling Up Your Social Media with Paid Advertising webinar. My name is Danielle Jackson, and I'll be facilitating today's session. Just a couple of things to note about the Zoom platform. You can bring up the chat box by clicking on the chat icon on the black bar located at the bottom of your screen. You may need to wiggle your mouse a little bit for this bar to appear, but once it does, you can click on the icon and a box should pop up, and this is where you can ask any questions or make any comments for the presenters during the webinar. This is also a Zoom webinar, so we do have the Q&A feature. So if you would like to enter your questions into that section, I'll be monitoring that as well, and we'll be sure to get your questions over to our wonderful panelists on today. At the end of our presentation, we will have a short survey, so please make sure you provide your honest feedback of what you thought of today's session, as it helps us to improve our future webinar offerings. Once the webinar has concluded, I will provide a link to today's recording along with a PDF version of today's presentation for your convenience. Now I'd like to go ahead and introduce our speakers for today. First, we have Doug Wilbur. Doug is the CEO of Denim Social, a leading social media management software provider for financial institutions. Since joining the SaaS provider in 2018, Wilbur has led the company's rapid growth, including securing 2 rounds of venture funding, forming meaningful industry partnerships, guiding 3 strategic acquisitions, and overseeing significant increases in both revenue and staff. A financial services veteran, Wilbur mentors numerous early-stage fintech companies in St. Louis and is a proud Penn State University alumnus. Don't want to butcher that because I know you're very proud of that. Next, we have Jesse Norris. Jesse has a diverse background in managing brand building, product launch, communications, design, and event organization. As the director of marketing at GoPrime Mortgage, she recently led a successful company-wide rebrand and continues to work with her team to adopt new products and technology to better support the sales group while heading up marketing campaigns and community outreach. Welcome, Jesse. We're so happy to have you here today. And last but certainly not least, we have Chanley King. Chanley is the digital marketing coordinator of GoPrime Mortgage, a veteran-owned and operated mortgage company. Since joining GoPrime, Chanley has focused on growing the company's social media presence and engagement among other marketing-related tasks, including Google advertising and SEO work on the website. So welcome to all of our panelists today. We are excited to have you all here. I will now turn it over to Doug to get us started today. Doug, the floor is all yours, and thank you all for joining us.
Danielle, thank you so much for teeing that up. I hope everybody has had their lunch, and if you've had your lunch, make sure you've got a good cup of coffee here because it's going to be a whole lot of fun. So thanks for that kind intro. And yes, I am a very proud Penn State alumni. We were just talking about that during the pre-meeting. So we'll go ahead and kick things off here. Thought maybe it would be helpful just from the outset, just to share a little bit about kind of who we are as Denim Social. So Denim Social, we are a SaaS provider exclusively focused on the financial services industry. So whether you're a mortgage lender, a commercial banker, a business banker, a wealth advisor, an insurance agent, we service all corners of the financial services ecosystem. We are endorsed exclusively by the American Bankers Association. But we are venture backed by some leading organizations in the fintech arena. I don't think we need to belabor this point. I think we all are here. We all are living through the situation that's at hand right now. Rates are up. Home prices are still high. It's leading to a significant downturn in the amount of people who are opting in to the home buying experience. It's a really, really tough market out there. Our view is that we want to empower loan officers and marketers who support those loan officers to be able to use social media to drive net new business opportunities and staying present for the communities that they serve in these more difficult times than we've had in the last couple of years. And consumer expectations have additionally changed, right? So we've got the market economics, they are what they are, but at the same time, consumer expectation is fundamentally different than it was even just a handful of years ago. The majority of the new home buyers that are entering the market are, quote unquote, millennials. To me, what that means is that they are digitally first, they are digitally native. They grew up with iPhones in their hands. They expect a digital experience. They expect to engage with their loan officers on their channel of choice. They want to have an experience that is customized for them. But unfortunately, right now, a lot of them are opting out of the market, making it a much more competitive time for loan officers to drive new customer relationships. And it's not just that one transaction. And this is one of the things that we work with our customers on and we coach our customers on, and this really pertains to the value of social, is building long-term relationships, not having a transaction, not getting that buyer into their first home, but recognizing that first transaction is the first of many. That on average, consumers will borrow about 11 times over the course of their lifetime. 92% of the time, that borrower will work with one of the first two loan officers they speak with. So let's just let that sink in for a little bit. Like if you are one of the first two people that a consumer speaks with, that you're 92% of the time you're gonna get that opportunity with that customer, which leads to the graph on the right-hand side, which is retention is historically terrible in the mortgage industry. Roughly 1 in 5 customers come back to that lender. So if you add all these things up and you think about, well, what if we could just move 18% retention to 25%, 30% retention? What would be the impact on the business if we just did a better job of staying engaged with our customers while they go through the journey of taking out 11 mortgages over the course of their lifetime? Social media can help. Again, when every edge matters, it's time to level up social media, sort of teed up a little bit why social media matters. And from our viewpoint at Denim, there are really two key strategies, but those two key strategies work in concert with each other in many cases. So there is this notion of social selling. And again, we are a social selling or a sales enablement platform using social media. Social selling is the practice of using social media for business development purposes. So coupling together publishing on social media, establishing trust, establishing credibility, becoming a thought leader for the industry that you serve as a loan officer, but coupling that together with personalized and hyper-targeted paid social to reach beyond your first degree connections and deeper into the communities that you serve. The combination of those two capabilities together is really where we find our customers finding a high degree of success.
So I'm sorry, really quick, we did have a question that came into the chat.
Absolutely.
So I'm pulling it up, please forgive me.
It's all good.
Okay, so the question is, we're on social media, but we're not seeing results. What do you recommend?
Sure. So without knowing what they're doing on social, my guess is that they're primarily, and maybe the person asking the question is thinking about their brand on social media. Where our customers are finding a high degree success is thinking beyond the brand, right? And thinking about in the financial services arena, inclusive of mortgage, people buy from people. After all, that's why we have a loan officer in the first place, right? We as consumers want to engage with a person to help us make complete a transaction, which is going to be the largest asset on our personal balance sheet. Right? This is a really, really personal decision. People want to buy from people. And so when you think about how to get value from social and how to have success on social media, it's not necessarily only coming from the brand level. Certainly being present as a brand is important on social media, but it's really important to have your loan officers present and engage with the communities that they serve so that they can stay present for those potential home buyers. And also, really importantly, staying present for the people who are driving deals to those loan officers, right? Think about your real estate agents, your house flippers, your contractors, all those people that are driving referral business to your loan officers. Using social media as a way to stay present and engage with those communities is how you should be thinking about leveraging social media. Cool to keep going, Danielle?
Yes, I'll keep an
Great.
eye out for more questions. Thank
Good
you.
deal. It's perfect timing. We have a poll. So we defined social selling. I'll redefine it for everybody here. Social selling is the practice of using social media to empower your producers to drive net new business opportunities for themselves and filling their sales funnels with new customer opportunities. I don't know how the poll works, Danielle. You might have to coach me through on this one. Oh, there we go. Perfect. Get a lot of all-ins. Love it. Oh, now we're balancing out here. So it looks like we're about a 50-50 swap here with a few folks not knowing what that is. Hopefully my definition helped with that. But I think we're probably pretty good here. It looks like we're going to be at about a 50-50 split. Honestly, we hear this a lot when we first start talking to a lender, when we start to talk to them about the opportunity that's present with social selling. It is, and we do get those questions quite frequently, which is, hey, we're present as a brand on social media, but we're just not really getting the engagement that we wish we were. The way to drive engagement, the way to use social media as a business development driver is to get your loan officers active on social. And actually, I think I can kill this little thing there. So why harness that collective reach and that collective horsepower of your loan officers on social media? Well, on average, and this is not just exclusive for financial services, but on average, employees have about 10x the reach on social media than the brands they work for. And every time they post on social media, they're going to drive about 2x the engagement. So if you think about how do you amplify the reach of the effort you're putting into social media, how do you amplify the reach, and then how do you personalize that experience for your potential borrowers? You use your employees, right? After all, it's the employees who are the ones who are actually engaged and know these individuals and want to build these relationships. The challenge is that many of them just are very ill-equipped to be able to manage social on their own. So, and we'll get to that here in a little bit. And this does have a material business impact. And these are some more stats that come out of LinkedIn. Sales reps who are active on social media are 45% more likely to hit their quota. They're 57% more likely to generate high quality leads. And the stat on the right here is actually a recent stat that just came out that 57% of the time in the financial services industry, net new customer relationships were influenced by social media in some way. So this really matters, especially right now when we're competing and it's a dogfight for new customer opportunities. Being present in your customer's channel of choice in a personalized way, in a scaled way, is really important right now.
So just before you go on to the next slide, I did have another question from the audience.
Yeah. Would you like me to go back a slide or?
Yeah, just slide 11.
Yeah, perfect.
It says, are loan officers really going to post on social media? It makes us a little nervous. Shouldn't that be marketing's role?
So it should make you nervous in a lot of instances. There are a lot of, I'm going to put it this way, we've spoken with hundreds and hundreds of loan officers. They're really good at what they do, right? They are really, really good at helping a borrower get into the right product given their personal situation, right? Most loan officers, and I'm going to say most because there are a few who are really good social sellers, but on average, most loan officers are not marketers by trade, right? They need a lot of help and support, and that's where a platform like ours comes in and is really beneficial and really helpful. Is how do you give marketing the ability to procure content, to orchestrate content, to write content, have it be approved by compliance, and make it available to loan officers. Or for a lot of our customers, they say, hey, look, it's one thing to lead the horse to the water, so to speak, right? And we make all this content available to them. But what really ignited their social selling program was just doing it on their behalf, right? Creating, scheduling, and publishing content at scale on behalf of loan officers is a great way to get them active on social media, right? And then once they start to see the engagement, then they'll start to do more of their own content and publishing on their own behalf. But where a lot of our customers get started is just to say, we recognize that there's a brand risk, a reputational risk, and more importantly, a compliance risk to not having control and governance over our social selling program. We're gonna pull all that inside of Denim, right? We're going to orchestrate the content. We're going to write the content. We're going to approve the content. And we're just going to post it on behalf of these loan officers so that we guarantee that they get the benefit from social selling.
Thanks, Doug.
Mm-hmm. So, and we just touched a little bit on this, and so I won't spend too much time on this slide, but at the end of the day, like what we think about day in, day out, before work, during work, after work, is how do we help lenders to be able to reach the right audience, to be able to seek out and build new relationships on social media, and then ultimately, because we're all in this to drive net new customer relationships, how do we use social media as a way to convert those relationships using social selling? I won't spend a lot of time on this. We already sort of defined social selling. I think we've got a pretty good grasp on this. But there's a lot of different terms you might hear when people start talking about social selling. So I thought it'd be helpful to say, what is social selling? What isn't social selling? All these three things on the screen here are all very important. Certainly being active as a brand on social media is very important, to be present for your community at large. Some folks will confuse social selling for employee advocacy. There are actually two completely different things. Employee advocacy is employees talking about your brand on social. Social selling is using social media as a business development tool. They're two completely different things. So I think it's helpful for the audience here to understand the differences. But what does it look like in action, right? So there is this notion of loan officers are posting relevant content on social media. They're building those relationships. They're engaging compliant with the audience that they serve. But ultimately, we're educating that market, and we're positioning that loan officer as a thought leader in their community that they serve, so that when that customer raises their hand and say, yes, I'm ready to refi, yes, I'm ready to take the leap and be a first-time home buyer, they've educated themselves, and that loan officer is the one who's driven that education and that journey for that customer. And I think now we're ready to maybe shift gears and introduce Jesse and Chanley to the conversation. Thank you for being so patient while I set all this up. But maybe we can spend a couple minutes just talking about your experience with, going down your social selling journey, and how it's worked out for you guys so far.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us here. I think, honestly, Denim Social has been a huge game changer for us. We searched endlessly for something that was going to work, where we could help our loan officers with posting content, because we are that marketing team that person asked the question on. So we, wanted to make sure we were posting content for our loan officers because they're so busy, especially last year and the year before that. But one thing that, Denim Social allowed us to do was to be able to post that one brand content, like you were mentioning earlier, to all of our loan officers, which is great. And you can see that's like our middle post out here on this slide is our branded content. But then we have loan officers where the ones we have found to be the most successful are the ones that are adding that personal touch that you were mentioning earlier, Doug, where they're going in and they're talking about, their new client who just moved into an area, or how they're volunteering, or this cool new dog park that just opened up, and it's just really making themselves a person to want to work with. And those are the posts that we found the most engaging. But yeah, and also one of the things too, that even just our loan officers were nervous to post too. And so one of the cool things that we've set up with Denim Social is a lot of their monitoring for compliance. So any big keywords that could, get them dinged in audits or anything like that, we have that set up. We even have workflow set up that, that way if they're not sure if it's a compliant post, they're not sure if they want to post it, they can actually choose for the marketing team to review it prior to it actually going out. So we set up a lot of mechanisms for them to be able to be comfortable with posting. And so we've actually seen them do a lot more, because they know we're working for them and we're working with them to help build up their social strategy. And so it's actually been it's really worked out well for us in the past 12 months to have Denim Social, for sure. Chanley's the one who helps post everything every day, though, so she might be able to give a little bit more insight.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think Chanley, you're in the guts of our platform every day. Maybe give the audience a little bit of perspective on what's worked well for you, and how you've optimized your social selling program.
Yeah, so basically anytime we hire a new loan officer, I take them through and get them set up on all their pages, get them set up in Denim, and ask them if they want auto posting. So if they want auto posting, then that means that I'm going to be posting for them like 2 to 3 times a week. And then I just recommend to them, 1 or 2 posts to post themselves, like local content. If they go out to eat with a realtor, if they, something closing for their customers, that way, the corporate content's great, but the local content is always what gets more interaction. Even if like we had a loan officer that went to lunch at a local place, took a picture of what he had to eat, and he got a lot of engagement just from that.
Yep.
So, and then if they don't feel completely comfortable with me scheduling out all their content, I put everything that I make in the content library. So if they want to go and schedule it out themselves, then they can go and say like, hey, I like this post. This is when I want to post it, schedule it out. And I mean, it's been great. So
Cool. Let's talk a little bit about the C word, compliance. So, we're all coming from an environment that is heavily regulated. Tell me about how you guys interact with your compliance officers to make sure that they're not losing sleep over all this, increased social media activity.
So we work really hand in hand with our compliance department. I mean, honestly, this has been a great solution to help them at the end. So we do use an end product for things that already get posted to monitor it through. But Denim Socials really helped grab a lot of that at first. If someone's saying like, oh, we offer better rates than other companies, like, whoop, that we're gonna not say that. Let's say we have competitive rates or things like that that'll help them. But it's being able to catch those things prior to them posting actually has created a learning and a learning opportunity for us, an education opportunity for us to work with the loan officers to say like, hey, instead of this, let's post this. And also we're able to even catch things like them, it's so easy to just want to go on Google and right click and copy an image and use it. And so that's something that we've been able to really catch too, because there's licensing issues with that and things like that. So we've actually created an incredible relationship with our loan officers. And so, they pick up the phone and they contact us, or they'll message us internally and just about anything like, hey, I'm thinking about posting this. And we'll, coach them through like, hey, this is the kind of photos you want to take. This is the kind of way you want to write this post to be engaging. So Denim Socials actually really helped facilitate that conversation opening up. So we've certainly appreciated that. But also, especially with the compliance element, it's really helped catch a lot of keywords, especially in, with even political things or whatever. And just anything you want to catch, you can put it in keywords. And so it really helps to create a learning opportunity for the marketing team, but then also for the loan officer on how to engage positively in their social environment.
Yep. I love it. And, we coach our customers, quite frequently. And it seems like, you guys have subscribed to this methodology, which is the best way to stay compliant is to be proactive about it. How do you maintain proactive compliance versus reactive compliance? And yeah, there are other platforms that are out there that could, pull a post down if need be. Our viewpoint is somebody has seen that post, and it's likely going to be a regulator, right? That has screenshotted that post and is going to bring it to you during your next audit. Our viewpoint is that post should never leave your front door. And by using our compliance solution and working in a more symbiotic relationship with compliance, right, to make sure that best practices are adhered to. So kudos to you guys for using the platform to its full capabilities. Let's switch gears a little bit, because one of the things that we hear a lot about is, well, what are the results? Like, why does this matter? And so Jesse, maybe you can talk to or speak to a little bit about the results you've seen. I think you guys have been on the platform for a little bit more than a year now. So
right now.
What's that?
We're about to renew right now if we haven't already. So
well, there we go. Boom.
Yeah.
Good deal. So let's talk about the results. I'll hand you the floor back.
Cameron, do you want to talk about the results, or would you like me to?
Either way, I mean, I think we've seen growth on all of our pages, both corporate and our loan officer pages. I think just being able to keep up with the content and staying in front of people, I think has helped a lot. And then for also to be like recognized by the Facebook algorithm that, people want to see what we're posting instead of just hiding it because we only post once every, 2 weeks or so.
Yeah. Yep. I haven't even had a couple of loan officers say like, oh my gosh, like now that you're posting all this stuff, I'm getting messages. So now I had to like download Messenger, and I'm like, I know it's a tough thing, but you're getting business, and we jest a lot, but they're actually
Yeah.
having to engage and comment. You know, one of those things that we tell them too is make sure you keep an eye on your emails for when people are commenting. Like, you know, you'll get an email and from Facebook or, you know, Instagram, whatever else, and you need to comment on those posts back. And so, you know, I had one loan officer who ended up posting about someone just selling a home in, you know, X county, and below she had 20 different comments of people saying like, hey, I'm actually looking to move into this county or this county. Like, hey, what do I need to do to get pre-approved? You know, and it's just like, that was all one post. And that was only 3 weeks ago in the environment that we're in. And that's because she, you know, she's in our automated posting, but she does that very, you know, she'll show her favorite coffee shop in town and like her going out to the dog park and things like that. And so it's just once a weekend, it's things she's already doing, but she's getting a ton of engagement. And whereas maybe a year and a half ago, it was maybe 10% of that in the environment that it was too. So she's definitely, she started then, so now she's got that build up now, but it only took her about like 3 to 5 months to really build out that, you know, social media Instagram platform.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. You talk about kind of time frame, right? We get this a lot as well when customers are just starting their journey with us, and we have to coach them that social is a commitment, right? There's not a silver bullet for social, right? There's a commitment to social, but the results are meaningful, right? If you can lean on marketing to help you with, you know, curating content, make sure content is compliant, engaging with your audience, right? It will lead to net new business opportunities, right? It just takes commitment. And, you know, hopefully, and the way that we hopefully have designed our product is just to make the platform super approachable and easy for a loan officer all the way up to a highly sophisticated digital marketer like you guys.
So Doug, I do have a couple of questions from the audience. Are you okay to take them now?
Let's do it.
Okay. So it's 2 questions. One is, what does your social integration and strategy look like across different platforms? That's the first question.
Sure.
And the second one is, do you utilize retargeting for your corporate sites and platforms?
So maybe I'll take the second question. But Jesse and Chandley, maybe like you could share about, you know, what your channel strategy looks like for social.
Yeah, for LinkedIn, we try to stay more corporate, more businessy, you know, recruiting type posts or like company related. Facebook, you know, the fun, quirky posts, sometimes like the national holidays that people don't really think about. And then Instagram is a lot like Facebook, but I think like the capabilities is just a little bit different as far as Instagram through Denim Social. So it's usually just a still image. But I think y'all just adopted videos on Instagram.
You know it.
If I'm so I haven't used that yet, but I'm excited about it.
Yeah, and we do hear from our customers, and I think it's best practice to not treat all social networks and the social channels the same, right? The content and the intention of the content should be different, right? But again, how do you have a central place to sort of keep it all organized and managed, right? Because if you're just doing one-off here and there on different channels, it's not going to look like it's a concerted effort, and it really should be. You should be thinking about, okay, here's my LinkedIn strategy. How does my LinkedIn strategy support my Facebook strategy, my Instagram strategy, my Twitter strategy if I have one? We support all of those networks, of course. But yeah, you guys are spot on of thinking through who's my audience on each of these channels. What is the content that I'm producing that's going to drive that engagement?
Yeah, and my social calendar helps a lot. So whenever I'm like scheduling my content for the week, like Mondays, I try to do like mortgage related topics. And then Tuesdays is more like recruiting, focusing on LinkedIn. And then, you know, Wednesdays, I post a lot of our blogs because we do blog content and it kind of drives them back to our website. And then Thursday and Friday, we normally like highlight what's going on with like our employees or their reviews that they've recently gotten. And so that helps a lot too.
Now this is going a little bit off script here and just asking you a question in front of everyone, but like, have you guys integrated your blog into Denim? Have you guys set that up where that content's just feeding straight in?
No, I did not know that was
we're going to make that happen for you guys right after this call. It's pretty cool. So we have the ability to, every time you post a new piece of content to your blog, it'll get ingested and manifested again, right inside of Denim, inside a folder. So that it just saves you that extra step of having to cut and paste and recreate the wheel. It's all built right in. So we'll talk about that after this. Cool. It's been a really cool feature that we built just not too long ago. Danielle, to get to the second question about retargeting, I think that's a perfect opportunity for us to shift gears And so far during the conversation, we've talked about organic social publishing and social selling on behalf of loan officers. That's part of the equation, is posting natively on social media. The other part of the equation is social media advertising. And how do you use social media advertising as a way to reach beyond those first degree connections and deeper into the communities that you serve? Here's a quick slide on sort of the trade-offs between, you know, organic and paid, right? So in organic, your connections are limited. It's limited to the number of first degree connections that your loan officers may or may not have. With paid advertising, it's limitless. You can target any number of humans all across the planet. We just had a stat come out the other day we were using for another presentation. It's something like 53% of the world's population is on social media now. So, I mean, that's pretty wild if you think about it. With organic, the reach can be constrained by the algorithms, and there's lots of different games you can play to sort of crack through the algorithm. Seems like the folks at GoPrime are doing a pretty good job of that. But with paid advertising, that doesn't come into play, right? You are empowered to control your reach, and it ultimately depends on the spend that you're willing to put behind your social ads. Building a following on social takes work when you're thinking about organic, right? You have to actually physically make those connections with those consumers. With paid advertising, you choose the audience and you determine how they receive your message. So it's just a little bit of a different way to sort of think about the world. But ultimately, what we're finding is our customers are using both strategies together. And we support both strategies within Denim Social for organic content publishing at scale, but then also with our social media advertising solution to be able to sort of reach beyond and really expand your reach and your level of influence on behalf of your loan officers. So this is another fun picture way to think about what I just described, but kind of breaking through those first degree connections, reaching deeper into the communities that you serve with social media advertising. And when we think about the world inside our four walls at Denim, we think about the world through the lens of a sales funnel, right? We're ultimately a sales enablement solution, and using social publishing to drive awareness, establishing trust, credibility, certainly, you know, engaging with your community with, you know, off of organic content can lead to net new business opportunities. But if you want to continue to, you know, really push leads through the sales funnel, from awareness to engagement to consideration and ultimately conversion, using our full stack of capabilities from publishing, social media advertising to engage with not just those first degree connections, but with anybody who would be a prime target for your organization, driving them to a conversion optimized landing page to generate leads. And then to finally, Danielle, to answer the question about retargeting, you know, 5 or 6 minutes later, we all know, and we do this all the time, right? You click on an ad in Facebook or Instagram, and it asks you to fill out a piece of information, and you're like, well, I can't be bothered to do that right now, right? The ability for us to retarget those consumers who have kind of slightly raised their hand and said, yeah, I'm sort of interested, I'm just not quite ready to commit yet. You know, retargeting those folks and reinforcing that messaging in a really cost-effective way. Retargeting is actually one of the most efficient advertising spends that you can find. And ultimately, we know that if you touch that customer again and again and again with the same message, which is like, you know, if you're on Instagram and you're shopping for a pair of sneakers, all of a sudden, all you see is that shoe, right? They're retargeting you. We have that same capability on behalf of your loan officers to say, let's keep that loan officer present and engage with that community, whether or not they're connected personally or not, but let's keep them present and engaged. So when that consumer raises their hand, they think of that loan officer first. And then ultimately, we're integrated with any number of different CRM providers as well. So Total Expert, Accelerate, Surefire, Top of Mind, all those folks, we're all integrated with those guys to be able to take that lead and then ultimately put it into the CRM where you can then kick off another customer journey off the back of that.
So,
yeah.
There were some more questions rolling in.
Sure. I love questions.
Absolutely. Yeah, and keep them coming. I'm looking at the Q&A, you guys, so thank you for submitting your questions. One here is, have you been able to effectively track conversions from social media? It's tough to say who sees a post and contacts the lender, especially over the lifetime of a mortgage sales cycle. Sure. How much can you track versus how much do you have to take on faith to say SM is having a direct impact?
Yeah. So in the GoPrime team, feel free to add any color commentary on top of that. But that was really the driving force behind the CRM integrations that we've launched this year. is we do want to trace those digital breadcrumbs back to social media, right? But ultimately, where is that single source of truth for that customer relationship and how they may have been impacted by social or email or any other number of things? They dropped by an open house and picked up a business card, right? We want to drive attribution and make marketers smarter and more informed with how they're rolling out their strategies each and every day. And so that was really one of the driving forces behind integrating with CRM providers, is to say, I now have the ability to, drive a net new engagement. They're filling out a form. They're asking for somebody to contact me. I can drop that into the CRM, either as an existing customer relationship or a net new customer relationship. And then I can track from there where that ultimately led to. What was the outcome of that engagement? Did it lead to a net new application or a conversion? So yes, the short answer is, it's recent. We're building the data set around that, literally a little bit more every day until we can get to the point where we can communicate out, really what does that conversion look like? But it all started with integrating with the CRM.
We just we're looking into integrating Surefire with us. That's who we use, and we've really enjoyed using Surefire. We also utilize forms as well. So if people click on any action items in the post that we create, it's going to go to a form that collects, and we're able to track that. But then also we have forms when people are filling out the application where they can drop down and select that they were at Facebook, and so we actually were able to track through our conversions a lot through that. So it's a few different avenues. So you're looking at a few different spreadsheets, but it all adds up, and you're able to really see how those things move through.
Well, and also we have a funnel built on Google Analytics. So, if that website traffic comes from Facebook or Instagram, we see the amount of people that visit our website coming from our social media. So we see that. And then also whenever our loan officers are working with somebody, they usually ask them, like, how did you hear about us? Part of the application is their referral source. And so a lot of those are, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, stuff like that. So that helps us see it as well.
We actually had another customer. This is years ago. I was chatting with them, and they had a similar sort of process set up where that LO was encouraged to, how'd you hear about us, right? And they determined that their social selling program was leading to about one extra loan per loan officer per month, based on that data that was coming back. So, I mean, talk about real business results, right? That's, for a lot of loan officers and where their quotas are and where their production is, that's a meaningful uptick on a monthly production. So, one of the questions, and Danielle, I'm happy to field any more questions, but this slide is one of the questions we get quite frequently, which is like, okay, I get it. I need to have a social selling program. My boss isn't totally on board yet, or my leadership team isn't totally on board yet. How do I get something like this started? How do I get buy-in from leadership? That's where we come in. And in many ways, of course, we want to partner with you commercially. But for a lot of lenders, it really just starts with, hey, we're happy to have a conversation. Bring us under the tent. Let us have a conversation with leadership. Educate them about social media, why social selling matters, how you can, focus in on the ROI opportunities. In fact, we were just down in Atlanta. Gosh, was it last week? I'm losing track of my days. And we sat with a group of executives and we unpacked what their LinkedIn profile looked like, right? And it seems so basic, right? But if you didn't grow up in an environment where you were digital first, and you didn't grow up in an environment where like your LinkedIn profile was like your resume for the world, right? Like some of this stuff is challenging. Like, why do you need endorsements on your LinkedIn profile? Why is it important to link your experience to your company page, even if it's a previous employer's company page? All these basics, we quite frequently will sit with teams of executives and unpack this for them so they can start to understand why social matters and why their marketing teams are advocating so hard for more resources dedicated to social.
So I do have a question sort of along those lines. Mm-hmm. How do you determine your budget for paid advertising? How much would one lender need to consider spending to have a well-promoted page?
Yeah, so without being coy, I mean, there's not one right answer. In fact, it was interesting. I mean, it used to be that you would commit large amount of capital for a long period of time because the prevailing wisdom was you had to stay committed to a certain campaign for a long period of time to see the results. We're actually starting to see the opposite. And where a lot of financial services firms are getting a lot of value is to say, let's micro test. Let's micro test lots of different messages in the marketplace, right? For maybe as little as $20 a loan officer a day type of thing, like not huge amounts of money, right? To dedicate to say, we're going to run a certain campaign for 2 weeks on behalf of a certain subset of loan officers. And we're going to, we have like A/B testing, we call it smart campaigns inside of our platform. So you can micro test as well to say like, hey, my loan officers in a certain state, message A is resonating more than message B, right? So after we pick the winner, let's pick that winning message on behalf of that individual loan officer in the community that they serve. So we can continue to get that feedback loop on, where they should start to double down. But the prevailing wisdom now is to don't lock up tons of capital to run your social, your social ad campaigns. Do a lot of testing, right? Measure incessantly and pivot frequently based on what the market is reacting to. So I think we're about ready for questions, actually, Danielle. I know we've been fielding a lot of these throughout the presentation. Are there any additional questions that have come in from the audience that would be worth grabbing right now? Oh, you're still on mute. There you go.
Yep, it helps if you're not on mute. Yep, I do it at least once Zoom meeting. Yeah. There are a couple that came in from the chat. One is, what apps or companies would you recommend to make social media flyers for us?
Social media flyers?
Mm-hmm.
That's actually interesting. So one of the things that our customers, I don't know if I've come across a social media flyer platform, to be honest with you. A lot of CRM providers have a place to retain approved content, and personalize that approved content. We also have a media library contained within Denim Social. So any pre-approved content that you would want to post on social media can be housed, and you can give access to all your loan officers, some of your loan officers, et cetera. So that would be one way to accomplish that. But typically what we've found is that any housing of collateral outside of social content or inclusive of some social content typically is inside the CRM.
Okay, and speaking of CRMs, there is another question that says, do you have a CRM that you would recommend?
Oh man, you can't put me on the spot like that. We work with a lot of CRM providers, and they all are great at what they do. And it really just comes down to, what's the functionality that's best for your business, right? And it's same thing for Denim Social, right? I mean, if for some of our customers who are really only thinking about social media at the brand level, right, we may or may not be the best fit for them. And we'll be the first ones to tell you that you should probably go to and look at an alternative platform, because really what we are focused on is empowering social sellers and all of the complexity that comes into that. There are other alternatives out there. I won't name them specifically, but there are alternatives in the marketplace if you're just thinking about social from the brand level. Same thing goes with your CRM provider, and which is why that we've determined that our best way to service the industry is to be compatible with multiple. Right. And it's not just CRM providers, it's reputation management platforms like Experience and some of those other ones that are managing reviews. We're integrated with folks like that as well. So there's our viewpoint, and it makes it easy for us because we are hyper focused on the financial services industry, is to really zero in on those integration partners who are also focused in on the same segment of customers. So I think I ducked the question enough. Because I'll get calls after this. Why did you say that guy instead of the other one?
It was a very safe answer. We'll take it.
But if anybody wants to reach out to us directly and talk to us about, hey, what their specific situation is, we're happy to make referrals and recommendations. And while we rattle through the rest of those questions, I'll just flip. There's my email address if anybody wants to drop a line and have a conversation about, CRM providers.
Awesome. The next question we have is Google reviews. Do you recommend this being added to individual email tags?
I think that would be a question for the GoPrime team.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think I was reading that question earlier. So individual email tags, I'm not sure if that means like in the email signature. I'm going to go with it being the email signature. If that's the case, if you want to add it as like an icon for people to leave you a review, yes. I recommend getting reviews wherever you can get them. Makes you seem more like a real person if people really do read through those. In terms of displaying your reviews in your emails, I don't recommend doing that necessarily. It clogs it up. I recommend definitely showcasing your reviews in a very simplistic way on social media. Oftentimes people will write you a paragraph of how amazing you were, just choose some of those keywords for people to, when they're scrolling, to keep in mind when they're thinking of going with a loan officer. Oh yeah, I remember that person being kind or responsive or following through, making sure everything was smooth, those sort of things. So do those kinds of call outs for yourself.
Chanley, anything to add or?
No, I agree with Jesse, and like keeping things simple because people's attention span on social media is very, very short. So, the more simple and direct you can be, the better.
Perfect. I have another question here. Does Denim offer a program for a single loan officer as opposed to going through our corporate office?
So the short answer is yes. Ideally, though, we would want to work with the corporate entity for a couple of different reasons. One is maintaining brand and reputational best practices, right? And putting the experts in a position to be successful, right? The marketing folks are the ones who are best equipped to be able to run a social selling program. Also, compliance tends to get a little unnerved or unhinged when loan officers are out there investing in technology on their own, and certainly the vendor management folks don't really like it either. But we do have the ability to support smaller teams. And so if someone was interested in how that may work for their organization, send them my way. We're happy to get in touch. But as a rule, and this is the other thing too, is for the audience who's thinking about social selling. I mean, the value of social selling is the scalability, right? So thinking about all of your loan officers, all being active on social media and engaging with their communities, that's the real value of a social selling program. If one person's doing it and other folks are doing something different, it's a little bit harder to measure the success.
Perfect. Do we have any more questions from the audience? You can feel free to enter them in the chat or in the Q&A. Our panelists are more than happy to answer questions you might have. Well, while we wait for questions to come in, Doug, Chanley, Jesse, any closing words for the attendees?
Wasn't prepared for that.
You don't have any parting shots? I'll just say it's been great working with the team at GoPrime. You guys have been a wonderful partner for us, and it's been really cool to see you, for us to be a part of your social selling journey. So thank you for that opportunity. And my only other parting shot is if anybody's interested in learning more after the fact, here's my information. If I can't answer the question, which is quite frequent, but if I can't answer the question, we'll get you pointed to the right folks within our organization who can.
This is a perfect
for us personally. One more question that came in, so I'll give you a little more time to think about your parting words. So the question that came in is, any advice for loan officer relationships? We seem to be having trouble getting responses from them.
Say that one more time. I want to make sure I'm tracking that question.
It says, any advice for loan officer relationships? We seem to be having trouble getting responses from them. Sure,
it's like the engagement. Yeah, I'd put it back to the GoPrime team. How have you guys driven that?
Well, you have to get a hold of them. So once you get them on the phone or in front of the camera, which Jesse has a lot more to say about that. But once you get a hold of them, you have a conversation, you see what they want, and then you follow up and you do it, So it's all about doing what you say you're going to do it in a timely manner. And hold yourself to that standard. Because if they're asking you to do stuff and then you don't do it, or it takes too long, they're busy and they're always moving and they're not going to think back to you. So
Yeah, I think a huge part of it is when we do employee onboarding, we have a really nice setup where, I'm in the very first meeting that they have when they onboard with us. And so we create this really good relationship, and I almost kind of learn and then kind of relay to my team too, what's their best communication strategy. So are they a texter? Do they like me calling them on their home phone with a landline? Do they like using Teams? Do they like using email? And I think it's really just almost kind of figuring out who the loan officer is on a personal level and in terms of their communication and meeting them where they are. And so that's been a big deal for us the last several years, is really meeting our loan officers where they are and then help elevating them. In terms of engagement, when you've been struggling with it, my biggest thing is I found when I've actually visited my loan officers in person, I go around, and Chandler can tell you I'm out of the office a little bit, because I'm often visiting my loan officers, because I want to create that camaraderie where they know, we do social media and marketing for everybody, but I know who you are. Like, I know your kids' names, and like we've gone out to dinner and we've hung out and stuff. And so, it's just, I think it's creating that personal touch and relationship where, like, because they're entrusting a lot in, especially in the marketing team, we have access to their lives. And so I think a lot of that's building trust, and then learning how to communicate with them. It's almost, it's definitely like a fun game in the best way, just figuring out personalities and what triggers them into action, and so it's pretty neat thing to figure out. So I spent a lot of time doing that.
yeah, I visited one loan officer who I couldn't get in a meeting. And then after I got back, I heard from her every day, almost every single hour for a while. So
Yeah,
she was definitely responsive. Yeah.
And I think like a lot of the work that we do, coaching executives on like why social selling matters, the loan officers need that same education, right? And so we spend a lot of time for a number of our customers. And if we're not doing it with you folks, we're happy to do it as well. As we'll do quarterly or sometimes monthly seminars on social selling best practices. Bring us in as the thought leader, right? Where this is not marketing pushing something. This is an opportunity for you to learn. And we regularly will do that with large teams of loan officers who are either not taking full advantage of denim, or who are thinking about having their team added to the investment that the corporate entity's already made. We do that quite regularly. And what I heard from you guys, which was pretty cool, was, again, meeting that customer, in this case, your customer is that loan officer, meeting them in their channel of choice. Same thing we talked about when you're building a social selling program and thinking about what channels do you support, think about that, engaging with that customer in their channel of choice as well. So it's cool to see it kind of like work both ways, right?
Yeah, we've had Denim Social do training sessions for us as well. So we do that probably like once every 6 months or so. We could probably do it more, but every 6 months, especially, when we do a training, when we have onboarding as well, but, we'll have Taylor come in and teach something new, or just something that we feel like, we're having trouble with someone choosing the right workflow, and it's creating more work for the marketing team. So then we do an entire session on that. We actually do a monthly marketing team meeting where we invite all of the loan officers and LOAs too. So that's another way to engage, and we make sure that we have something of good value for them to take away. So one thing that we've learned with loan officers is you can't just have a meeting and expect them to come back next time if it's recurring. Like, you have to have something of value that you're leaving them with. And that's with anybody. Like, no one wants to keep going to a meeting that's boring. So we do fun stuff where we let them choose promo products. We show them some cool feature in Denim Social or our CRM that we have, different things. So we try to create moments of value for them as well.
Oh, one last little thing and you guys will get excited about this. So we've recently overhauled our analytics and brought a whole new suite of analytics capabilities to the platform. It's in beta right now with a handful of customers.
Wait, not us though? Okay. That's right. Never mind. We beta tested the last thing. It's okay.
Yeah, but in the next couple of weeks, it'll get rolled out more broadly. And one of the coolest parts of the way we've overhauled analytics is this idea of leaderboards, right? And saying, showing like who's the most active on social media, right? What type of engagement are they getting? What's the content that's driving that engagement? You may think you need to talk about puppy dogs on social, but it turns out you need to talk about ice cream, right? Our overhauled analytics is going to be able to provide those insights to say, for this particular loan officer, right, what things could we be doing to help them drive more engagement, whether it's revising their content strategy, maybe they just need to post more frequently, maybe they need to grab more pre-approved content. It really helps us on a granular level. And we all know these loan officers are competitive. They all want to be at the top of the leaderboard, right? And so having that leaderboard capability that they can show them that says, hey, like, look at Susan. Susan's killing it on social. Susan, why don't you talk about how that drove 3 new applications for you last month, right? So it's another way that we're sort of, partnering with our customers to drive that engagement that we want to see.
So we have about 4 minutes left, so I have time for one more question. What do you think of automated social media? As an example, a marketing post on the LO's behalf using HubSpot.
I mean, I know my opinion on that. I would. So I think there's a balance, really, and whether you're using a HubSpot or a platform like ours or whatever, there is a use case for some baseline level of call it auto posting, right? Of a marketing team creating content and publishing it on behalf of those loan officers, right? Whether it's once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week, whatever it is, right? And making sure that it's on brand, it's compliant. And for so many loan officers who aren't present on social, just having something is better than nothing. But that's not social selling. That's not true social selling. It's part of it, right? And really, to become true social sellers, that loan officer needs to feel empowered to be able to take the next step, to take a picture of that first-time home buyer at a closing dangling the keys on their front porch, right? And integrating with reviews and reputation management web, providers to say, hey, here's, every Wednesday we're going to drop in their latest 5-star review, right? There's lots of different things you can do to personalize your feed, right? And that's really where social selling starts to take off, is when that loan officer feels empowered to take that next step beyond just having marketing publishing content for them. And by the way, if they're doing it through HubSpot, they should definitely be doing it through us instead. Sales pitch.
So I mean, that's how we stumbled on Denim Social. They had emailed me and had been very good about staying on top of making sure I got a meeting with them, but not it wasn't too bad. It wasn't too bad. But we were looking at Hootsuite and HubSpot and Social Sprout, all these things, and like none of them had the solution we were looking for, where we could have the loan officers post what they wanted to, but they couldn't see what other loan officers were posting and post on their behalf. It was quite kind of a mess. And then we saw Denim Social, and it was just like this whole light bulb of like, this is everything that we've been looking for. So for us, it was really a no-brainer. And I think one of the biggest things for me, having launched a lot of different technologies through our company, was having a platform and just a company that was very intuitive and willing to work with their customers. In our first meeting, and she was so sweet, but she was like, we want you to break it, because then we know we can fix it and it can get better. And it was the first time I ever really heard somebody actively wanting me to break their platform, but in the best way, because it's one of those things where they were still rolling out some different things, and they put us on beta testing for rolling out Instagram. And so, they would meet with us and be like, what worked, what didn't? Did you like the way that this interface was? And it was just really cool to be a part of something. And now that, Instagram's rolled out, it's like, oh, that button wasn't there. Now it's there because we asked for it to be there, and it made more sense. And it was just kind of cool to be a part of something like that. And so, whenever there's an issue and we're like, hey, this thing isn't working, they're on top of it to get it fixed. Or, if it's taking a little bit longer because it's a complicated thing, they're first to, apologize and give us a phone call and explain what's going on, and, give us a reasonable timeline. And so, they've been incredibly responsive, I think. And then just also creating that relationship of where we're working together for the same goal. Like, they want to be successful, they want us to be successful. And so it worked out really well.
Love that. Thank you for that.
Perfect. I think that's a wonderful note to end everything on. We are at the top of the hour. So thank you to Doug, Jesse, and Chanley for your time. Thank you to the participants for your attention today. You do have a PDF version of the presentation, so Doug's contact information is in there. So if you have any questions that are specific to your particular organization, please feel free to reach out to Doug. Before you all hop off though, because I see you trickling out, we do have our post-poll evaluation questions. If you could just give us your honest feedback of what you thought of today's webinar, we greatly appreciate it. Again, thank you to our panelists, and we hope to see you all again in another MBA education program. So thank you all for your time and attention. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.